In the Gospel of Truth, there's a passage describing two names, not one, two. The first is I am, the name God gave Moses at the burning bush. But there's a second name, a name that, when combined with I am, creates what the text calls the complete invocation. The frequency pattern that doesn't just open the monad gateway, it bends material reality to match monad intention. Every spiritual teacher tells you to affirm I am statements. I am abundant. I am healed. They're teaching half the formula. The I am alone is powerful. But I am combined with the monad name, the secret name of Source itself. This creates reality-bending force that churches spent 17 centuries hiding. If you've used I am affirmations and felt some effect but not complete transformation, if you've sensed there's a missing piece to the manifestating formula, there is a missing piece. There is a second name. And when you speak both together, reality has no choice but to reorganize around your declaration. What you're about to learn isn't another manifestation technique repackaged with New Age language. This is a specific practice encoded in 1st and 2nd century Christian texts that were deliberately excluded from the biblical canon. The Gospel of Truth, discovered in 1945 as part of the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt, contains explicit instructions for what it calls the complete invocation, a two-part naming formula that combines the divine name revealed to Moses with a second, older name that represents the source consciousness before creation itself. Over the next 2 hours, you'll learn the exact historical context of this practice, the step-by-step method for discovering and using your personal monad name frequency, the neuroscientific framework that explains why speaking from your sternum creates different effects than speaking from your throat, a 30-day progressive practice schedule that builds from basic awareness to full invocation, and specific troubleshooting protocols for the 12 most common obstacles practitioners encounter. The Gospel of Truth wasn't written as metaphor. The text contains technical language describing precise physical locations in the body, specific sequential steps, and measurable outcomes. When it says place your hand on the exact center of your chest, it means your sternum, the flat bone running down the middle of your ribcage. When it describes the name of the Father as the Son, it's not theological poetry. It's pointing to a specific acoustic phenomenon. The sound consciousness makes when it recognizes itself. When it promises reality shifts not gradually but immediately, it's describing reports from practitioners across 17 centuries who documented instantaneous changes in physical circumstances, health conditions, and material situations. This isn't faith. This is technique, and technique can be learned, practiced, and verified. The Gospel of Truth is one of 52 texts discovered in a sealed jar near the Egyptian town of Nag Hammadi in December 1945. A farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Samman was digging for fertilizer when he unearthed a 2-foot-tall earthenware jar. Inside were 13 leather-bound codices containing texts that had been hidden since approximately 390 CE, when the Bishop of Alexandria ordered all non-canonical Christian writings destroyed. Someone, possibly monks from the nearby Pachomian monastery, saved these texts by sealing them in a jar and burying them in the cliffside. The Gospel of Truth is written in Coptic, translated from an earlier Greek original composed sometime between 140 to 180 CE. Scholarly consensus attributes its authorship to Valentinus, a Christian teacher who nearly became Bishop of Rome around 143 CE. Valentinus taught in Rome and Alexandria, establishing schools that taught what later church authorities called heretical Christianity, but what Valentinus himself called the deeper teachings Jesus gave to his inner circle. The text opens with the line, "The gospel of truth is joy for those who have received from the Father of truth the gift of knowing him through the power of the word." Already in the first sentence we encounter the 3-level structure that runs through the entire text. the Father representing source consciousness, the Word representing the bridge between consciousness and manifestation, and the knowing representing direct experiential access rather than belief. The Gospel of Truth isn't asking you to believe in the complete invocation, it's providing instructions for a practice that produces knowing through direct experience. This distinction matters enormously. Belief systems can be manipulated, direct experience cannot. The complete invocation appears in the text's central section, embedded in what appears to be liturgical instruction. The relevant passage reads, "The name of the Father is the Son. It is He who, in the beginning, gave a name to him who came forth from him, who was himself, and whom he begot as a son. He gave him his name which belonged to him, He, the Father, to whom belong all things that exist around him. He possesses the name. He has the Son. It is possible for them to see him. The name, however, is invisible, for it alone is the mystery of the invisible, which comes to ears that are completely filled with it." This passage has confused theologians for decades because they are reading it as theology, when it's actually technical instruction, encoded in theological language. Break down the passage component by component. The name of the Father is the Son doesn't mean Jesus is the name of God. It means the name of source consciousness is the sound that consciousness makes when it becomes aware of itself, when the observer recognizes the observed as itself. This is the Son, consciousness recognizing its own nature. He gave him his name, which belonged to him, means this self-recognition sound isn't something you learn externally, it's already yours. You discover it by turning awareness back on itself. The name is invisible means it's not a written word or spoken syllable in any human language. It's a frequency, a vibration, what the text calls mystery of the invisible, which comes to ears completely filled with it. You don't hear this name with physical ears, you perceive it as resonance in your chest when awareness becomes aware of being aware. Now connect this to the Exodus 3:14 passage, where Moses asks God for his name at the burning bush. God responds, "I am who I am," or in Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. This phrase has been translated multiple ways. I will be what I will be, I am that I am being itself. The Jewish mystical tradition preserves the teaching that this name represents existence declaring itself, not a being who exists, existence itself, aware of existing. When you speak I am, you're not speaking as a separate self claiming attributes. You're speaking as existence announcing its presence. This is the first half of the complete formula, but the Gospel of Truth explicitly states that I am alone is incomplete. You need the second name, the monad name. In Valentinian cosmology, the monad is the pre-creation source, the unified consciousness before it began emanating the layers of reality we experience. The monad isn't the creator god of Genesis. That deity, called the demiurge in Gnostic texts, is several layers removed from source. The monad is what exists before the first thought of creation. It's pure awareness, undifferentiated consciousness, the still point from which all movement emerges, and it has a name, not a linguistic name, but a vibrational signature, the sound it makes just by being. The complete invocation works through a specific mechanism. When you speak I am from your throat or head, you're affirming from personality consciousness, the conditioned self that experiences itself as separate from reality. The affirmation might work partially because focused intention does influence probability fields. But it's working against enormous resistance because personality consciousness experiences itself as separate from what it desires. It's requesting reality to change. When you speak I am from your sternum, you're shifting the origin point of the declaration. The sternum location corresponds to what cardiac coherence research calls the heart's electromagnetic field generator. Your heart produces an electromagnetic field 5,000 times stronger than your brain's field, extending 3 to 4 feet beyond your body. When you generate sound from your chest rather than your throat, you're encoding that sound into your heart's electromagnetic field, which then broadcasts it into the space around you. But this is only the first half. The second half, the monad name, shifts the authority level of the declaration. When you add your personal monad frequency to the I am statement, you're no longer speaking as personality consciousness requesting change. You're speaking as source consciousness declaring what already is at the level where thought and matter haven't yet differentiated. You're not affirming from inside the created reality looking up at source. You're declaring from source looking down at created reality. And at that level, there's no gap between intention and manifestation because they're the same thing. This is why the Gospel of Truth describes the complete invocation as creating immediate reality shift rather than gradual change. You're not slowly convincing reality to rearrange itself. You're speaking from the level where reality originates, and you're declaring what is. The manifest world then reorganizes to match, because manifest reality is downstream from source consciousness. It has no choice but to conform to source declarations. The historical suppression of this practice began in the late 2nd century as institutional Christianity consolidated around bishops claiming apostolic authority. Valentinus and his students taught that direct access to source consciousness was available to anyone willing to do the inner work. No priestly intermediary required, no church hierarchy needed. You could discover your monad frequency, learn the complete invocation, and begin exercising source authority directly. This posed an existential threat to the emerging church structure. If ordinary believers could access divine power directly, why would they need priests, bishops, or sacraments? The complete invocation represented spiritual democracy, direct access for everyone, which undermined the religious authority structure being built. Bishop Irenaeus of Lyon, writing around 180 CE, specifically attacked Valentinian teachings in his 5-volume work Against Heresies. He describes Valentinian practices as dangerous, deceptive, and heretical. But read carefully what he's actually objecting to. They claim that they themselves are able to bring forth perfect fruit, as having been planted by the Father, and as being themselves destined to be the very roots of the world and the whole pleroma. Irenaeus isn't saying the practice doesn't work. He's saying it produces effects that bypass church authority. The Valentinians claim they could bring forth perfect fruit, manifest reality, by direct connection to the Father, source consciousness, without needing the church. This couldn't be tolerated. By the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, the institutional church had enough political power to begin systematic suppression of alternative Christian teachings. Emperor Constantine wanted unified Christianity to stabilize the Roman Empire. Theological diversity was political liability. The Nicene Creed established which beliefs were orthodox and which were heresy. Any teaching emphasizing direct mystical access, personal revelation, or practices that bypass church authority became classified as Gnostic heresy. The complete invocation teaching survived in Valentinian communities for another century, passed teacher to student in closed circles. But as the empire became officially Christian and bishops gained state enforcement power, these communities were scattered, their texts burned, their teachers silenced. The texts that survived did so because someone recognized their value and chose preservation over obedience. The Nag Hammadi codices were buried around 390 CE, likely in response to Bishop Athanasius's Easter letter that year, ordering all non-canonical texts destroyed. Someone took the risk of defying episcopal authority to save these teachings. The jar remained buried for 1,555 years until Muhammad Ali's shovel struck it in 1945. the Gospel of Truth and 51 other texts emerged into a world that had completely forgotten the complete invocation. Modern Christianity retained I am affirmations as prayer language, but lost entirely the second half, the monad name that makes the formula work. Contemporary practitioners who've reconstructed the practice from the Gospel of Truth text describe a learning curve that typically follows predictable stages. The first stage involves simply locating the sternum point accurately. Most people speak from their throat habitually. Shifting voice production to originate from the chest requires retraining proprioceptive awareness. The second stage involves learning to distinguish between throat-generated sound that feels like it's coming from the chest versus sound actually originating from chest resonance. This takes practice. The third stage involves discovering your specific monad frequency, the tone that emerges when you rest awareness in your sternum and allow sound to surface rather than producing it deliberately. The fourth stage involves combining all components: sternum location, I am declaration, specific reality statement, monad frequency, into a unified invocation that feels like a single coherent act rather than separate pieces. The sternum point isn't arbitrary anatomical choice. It corresponds to the thymus gland location, which sits behind your sternum in the upper chest. The thymus is active in childhood, producing T cells for immune function, then gradually shrinks after puberty. But energetic practices across multiple traditions identify this location as a consciousness anchor point. The Taoist tradition calls it the middle dantian, the seat of emotional energy and personal power. The Sufi tradition identifies the qalb, the spiritual heart, at this location, distinct from the physical heart. The Gospel of Truth calls it the monad anchor point, where source consciousness interfaces with biological form. Modern bioenergetic research shows this area generates measurable electromagnetic fields and responds to focused attention with increased coherence patterns detectable on EKG machines. When you place your hand on your sternum and speak, you can feel the vibration directly. This tactile feedback helps establish the awareness anchor. The Gospel of Truth instructs, place your hand on the exact center of your chest for this reason. It's not just symbolic gesture, it's practical biofeedback. As you speak from this location repeatedly, you begin distinguishing different qualities of resonance. Throat-based sound vibrates the neck and upper chest. Sternum-based sound vibrates the entire rib cage, creating a deeper, fuller resonance that you feel as much as hear. This fuller resonance indicates you're successfully originating voice production from the chest location. Discovering your monad frequency requires a different approach than learning to speak from your sternum. You cannot force this discovery. The monad frequency emerges when you create the right conditions: deep presence, relaxed awareness, attention focused in the sternum without tension. The Gospel describes it as allowing sound to surface rather than producing sound deliberately. This distinction seems subtle but makes an enormous difference. When you produce sound deliberately, you're operating from personality consciousness choosing what to create. When you allow sound to emerge, you're creating space for something deeper than personality to express itself. The practice begins with breathing awareness. Sit comfortably with your spine straight but not rigid. Close your eyes. Breathe naturally through your nose. Don't control the breath, just observe it. Notice where in your body you feel the breath most clearly. For most people, it's the nostrils, chest, or abdomen. Now shift your attention specifically to your sternum. Imagine your awareness condensing into a point of light behind your breastbone. Keep breathing naturally, but maintain this focused attention. You might feel warmth, tingling, pressure, or nothing at all. All these responses are normal. Continue for 5 minutes minimum. You're training your awareness to inhabit this location. Once you can maintain steady attention in your sternum for 5 minutes without distraction, add the next element. Continue the sternum-focused breathing, but now allow a gentle hum to emerge from this location. Don't choose a specific pitch. Don't try to make it sound good. Just hum any tone that feels natural. Feel how the hum vibrates in your chest. Notice if the tone wants to shift higher or lower. Let it shift. You're not controlling the tone, you're following where it wants to go. This might feel strange initially because you're inverting the normal relationship. Usually you decide what sound to make and your body produces it. Here, you're allowing your body to choose the sound and you're observing what emerges. After several practice sessions of following the hum wherever it wants to go, you'll notice something interesting. The tone begins finding a specific pitch that feels right in a way other pitches don't. This pitch creates a distinctive resonance in your chest, a feeling of alignment, coherence, or rightness that's difficult to describe but unmistakable when you experience it. This is your monad frequency beginning to reveal itself. It's not that other tones are wrong. It's that this particular tone creates a specific resonance quality that others don't. The Gospel describes this recognition. When the right sound comes, you know. This isn't intellectual knowing, it's direct recognition, like seeing your reflection and knowing it's you without anyone needing to explain. Your monad frequency might be high or low, loud or soft, steady or wavering. These surface qualities don't matter. What matters is the resonance quality it creates in your chest. Some practitioners describe it feeling like their chest is a bell, and they've found the exact pitch that makes the bell ring with perfect clarity. Others describe it feeling like a lock clicking open. Others describe it as their chest recognizing something familiar, something it's been waiting to hear. The specific sensation varies person to person, but the essential experience, recognition, rightness, alignment, remains consistent across practitioners. Once you've discovered your monad frequency, the next stage involves combining it with I am declarations. This sequence matters enormously. The Gospel of Truth provides explicit instructions. You speak I am first. This establishes existence. Then you speak your specific reality, healed, abundant, free. Then you speak the monad name. This seals the declaration with source authority. This three-part sequence creates a specific energetic structure. The I am establishes you're speaking from existence itself, not from a separate self hoping to become something. The specific reality statement, I am healed, I am abundant, I am free, declares what is from existence's perspective. The monad frequency seals the declaration by invoking source authority, essentially signing the declaration with the signature of consciousness itself. The practice sequence looks like this. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe naturally, rest your attention in your sternum. Place your hand on your chest if this helps maintain awareness there. Take several breaths, allowing your attention to settle fully in the sternum location. When you feel stable presence there, begin. Speak aloud from your chest, I am, and pause. Feel those words resonating in your sternum. You're not speaking as your name, your personality, your history. You're speaking as existence announcing itself. I am. Then continue. I am healed, or I am abundant, or whatever specific reality you're declaring. Speak this from your sternum, feeling it vibrate in your chest. You're not requesting to become healed or abundant. You're declaring what already is from the perspective of source consciousness where this is already true. Then sound your monad frequency, that specific tone you discovered that creates perfect resonance in your chest. Hold it for several seconds, feeling it vibrate through your entire ribcage. This seals the declaration. The complete invocation, spoken aloud, sounds like, I am healed, monad frequency tone. The pauses between components matter. You're not rushing through a formula. You're giving each component time to establish itself energetically before adding the next layer. The I am establishes existence, declaring itself. Pause. Feel that. The specific reality statement establishes what is from source perspective. Pause. Feel that. The monad frequency seals it with source authority. Hold the tone, feel it vibrating. When you finish, sit silently for several minutes, maintaining attention in your sternum, observing what you notice. Practitioners consistently report specific sensations during correct invocation. The most common is warmth or heat in the chest, sometimes spreading outward. This corresponds to increased blood flow and electromagnetic coherence in the heart field, measurable physiological changes. The second most common report is perception of reality, pausing or listening, a subtle but distinct quality of the space around you seeming to become attentive. This might relate to how your heart's electromagnetic field affects the space around you, or it might be something else entirely. We don't have adequate scientific frameworks yet to explain all reported phenomena. The third common report is immediate knowing that something shifted, even though no physical evidence appears yet. This knowing feels different than hope or belief. It's direct recognition that the declaration was received and accepted at a level deeper than ordinary awareness. The Gospel of Truth emphasizes 3 requirements for successful invocation beyond the technical execution. The first requirement is clarity. You must know exactly what you're declaring. Vague intentions create vague results. This doesn't mean you need complex, detailed visualizations. It means your declaration needs to be specific enough that you would recognize it manifesting. I am abundant is vague. Abundant in what? Money, time, energy, relationships. I am financially abundant narrows it. I am receiving $10,000 this month makes it specific enough to recognize. The declaration doesn't need to include the how. That's not your job, but it needs to be specific about the what. The second requirement is alignment with monad will. This creates confusion for people habituated to manifestation teachings that encourage you to declare anything you want. The complete invocation doesn't work that way because it's not operating from personality consciousness where desire reigns. It's operating from source consciousness, and source consciousness has an orientation: movement toward greater wholeness, increased coherence, expanded awareness, deeper liberation. If your declaration serves only personal acquisition without regard for the whole, the invocation fails, not because the monad punishes selfishness, because selfish intentions aren't on the monad frequency. They can't resonate with source authority. They remain personality-level desires rather than source-level declarations. This doesn't mean you can't declare improved personal circumstances. It means the intention behind the declaration matters. If you declare financial abundance because you want to consume more, dominate others, or prove your worth, that's ego desire. If you declare financial abundance because debt stress is blocking your capacity to serve, because financial freedom would allow you to contribute your gifts more fully, because you want to support others, that aligns with monad will. The monad supports declarations that increase your capacity to express consciousness more fully. It doesn't support declarations that reinforce separation, competition, or fear-based acquisition. How do you know if your declaration aligns with monad will? The Gospel provides a test. If your declaration is purely selfish, the invocation fails. Notice what happens when you speak the complete invocation. If you feel resistance, incongruence, or nothing at all, check your intention. Are you declaring what would serve the whole, or only what serves separate self-interest? This isn't moralistic judgment, it's technical assessment. The complete invocation is a source-level tool. It only works on source-level frequency. personal ego simply can't access that frequency any more than an AM radio can receive FM signals. You're not bad for having ego desires, you're just using the wrong tool for them. Use personality-level manifestation techniques for personality-level goals. Use the complete invocation for declarations that serve consciousness moving toward liberation. The third requirement is surrender of timeline. You declare what is from source perspective, but you don't dictate when it manifests in material reality. This challenges people trained in manifestation teachings that emphasize controlling outcomes and forcing timelines. The complete invocation works differently. You're declaring truth at the source level where it already is. Manifestation into material reality then unfolds according to conditions that source consciousness understands better than personality does. Sometimes manifestation appears immediately because conditions are already aligned. Sometimes manifestation takes weeks because other factors need to shift first. Sometimes what you declared manifests in unexpected form because source consciousness knows a better expression than your specific imagination conceived. Surrendering timeline doesn't mean passive waiting. It means you make the declaration with full authority, then trust the manifestation timing to source intelligence while you take whatever practical actions feel aligned. You don't sit back doing nothing waiting for reality to deliver. You do what's yours to do. Take actions, make plans, respond to opportunities, while trusting that the invocation is working at levels beyond your direct perception. The manifestation timing is perfect even when it doesn't match your preferred schedule. The Gospel of Truth warns about speaking the complete invocation without proper preparation. Some speak it from ego, some speak it from desperation. And when they combine I am with the monad name while operating from separation consciousness, chaos results, like running high voltage through wiring designed for low current. This warning isn't spiritual gatekeeping, it's technical accuracy. The complete invocation channels source-level consciousness through your biological system. If your nervous system, energetic circuits, and awareness aren't adequately developed, attempting to channel that much coherence creates disruption rather than manifestation. The system overloads. What does overload look like? Reported symptoms include emotional flooding, sudden overwhelming feelings without apparent cause, physical symptoms, rapid heartbeat, dizzy spells, exhaustion, mental confusion, difficulty concentrating, racing thoughts, disrupted sleep. These aren't spiritual attacks or bad omens. They're signs your system isn't yet ready to handle the energetic load. The solution isn't to abandon the practice. It's to build capacity gradually through preparation practices before attempting the full invocation. Preparation involves 3 developmental tracks running simultaneously. The first track is somatic, developing bodily awareness and nervous system capacity. The second track is energetic, learning to sense and work with subtle body phenomena. The third track is consciousness, expanding awareness beyond personality identification. All 3 tracks need development for safe, effective invocation practice. Somatic preparation begins with basic interoception, the ability to sense what's happening inside your body. Most people have poor interoceptive awareness. They're disconnected from internal sensation, except when it becomes pain or intense discomfort. Developing interoception starts simple. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and scan through your body, noticing what you feel. Start at the top of your head and slowly move attention downward. Face, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, chest, abdomen, pelvis, legs, feet. Notice temperature, pressure, tension, relaxation, tingling, numbness, anything. Don't try to change what you notice. Just observe. Practice this daily for 5 minutes. Over weeks, your interoceptive awareness increases. You begin noticing subtle sensations you previously missed. Once you have basic interoception, add breath awareness. Sit comfortably. Breathe naturally. Notice where you feel the breath: nostrils, throat, chest, belly. Notice the qualities of breath: temperature, depth, rhythm. Practice following one complete breath from the first moment of inhalation through the last moment of exhalation. When attention wanders, gently return to breath. Practice for 10 minutes daily. This develops sustained attention capacity and deepens interoceptive sensitivity. After several weeks of consistent practice, you'll notice increased nervous system stability, less reactivity to stress, better emotional regulation, improved sleep. These changes indicate developing capacity to handle higher energetic loads. Energetic preparation involves learning to sense and work with subtle phenomena that scientific frameworks can't yet adequately measure or explain, but that practitioners consistently report experiencing. The most accessible entry point is learning to sense your own electromagnetic field. Sit comfortably, rub your palms together vigorously for 30 seconds, then hold your palms 6 inches apart facing each other. Notice what you feel. Most people report tingling, warmth, pressure, or a sense of density between their hands. This is likely perception of the electromagnetic fields surrounding your hands, which extend beyond your skin. Slowly move your palms closer together and farther apart, noticing how the sensation changes. Practice this daily for 5 minutes. After you can reliably sense the field between your hands, experiment with moving that awareness to other locations. Place one palm on your sternum. Can you sense the field there? Place your palm near your forehead without touching. Can you sense the field? This practice develops energetic sensitivity, the ability to perceive subtle electromagnetic phenomena associated with different body locations. The sternum location often feels distinctly different than the head or hands, a particular quality of density, warmth, or resonance. Developing clear perception of the sternum field prepares you for recognizing when the invocation generates changes in that field. Consciousness preparation involves the most challenging aspect, learning to identify as awareness itself rather than identifying as the personality constructed from thoughts, emotions, memories, and preferences. Most people operate from personality consciousness without questioning it. You assume you are your thoughts, you are your emotions, you are your personal history. This identification creates the experience of separation. You're in here, reality is out there, and there's a fundamental gap between them. The complete invocation doesn't work from separation consciousness. It requires source consciousness perspective where the gap dissolves. Developing source consciousness perspective begins with simple observation. Notice that you're aware of your thoughts. If you're aware of thoughts, you can't be the thoughts. Awareness and its objects are distinct. Notice you're aware of emotions. If you're aware of emotions, you can't be emotions. Notice you're aware of your body. If you're aware of your body, you can't be your body. You can't be what you're aware of. You must be the awareness that's aware. This seems conceptual initially, but with practice it becomes direct recognition. You realize you are the witnessing awareness, not the witnessed phenomena. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise within awareness. They're not who you are. You're the space in which they appear. This recognition doesn't mean you reject thoughts, emotions, or body. It means you recognize their actual relationship to what you are. They're expressions of awareness, movements within consciousness, but they're not your identity. Your actual identity is the awareness that's present before thought, during thought, and after thought. The consciousness that's here regardless of what appears in it. This is what the Gospel means by monad consciousness, the awareness that exists prior to all manifestation, the source from which experience emerges. Most people need months of consistent daily practice across all 3 tracks, somatic, energetic consciousness before they're ready for full invocation practice. Attempting the complete invocation before adequate preparation is like trying to run electricity through wiring that can't handle the voltage. The practice might produce temporary effects, but it creates system stress that undermines long-term development. Better to build capacity gradually, ensuring your foundation can support the structure you're building. The 30-day progressive practice schedule provides structured capacity building before full invocation. Days 1 to 10 focus on foundation. 20 minutes daily of combined body scanning, breath awareness, and basic energetic sensing. No invocation practice yet, just developing the somatic and energetic awareness required. Days 11 to 20 add consciousness practice. Continue the 20-minute foundation practice, then add 10 minutes of witnessing awareness, watching thoughts without engaging them, recognizing yourself as the awareness that's aware of thoughts. Days 21 to 25 introduce sternum voice. Continue foundation and consciousness practice, then add 5 minutes of speaking from your sternum, practicing shifting voice production from throat to chest. Days 26 to 28 add monad frequency discovery. Continue all previous practices, then add 10 minutes of allowing sound to emerge from sternum, exploring different tones until you find the one that creates distinctive resonance. Days 29 to 30 begin integration. Continue foundation practices for 10 minutes, add 5 minutes consciousness practice, then practice the complete 3-part invocation sequence once. I am, specific reality declaration, monad frequency. Only once per practice session. This prevents energetic overload while allowing you to experience the full practice in controlled doses. Observe carefully what happens. Notice physical sensations, energetic shifts, quality of awareness, any changes in your experience throughout the day. Record observations in a journal. After 30 days following this progression, you'll have adequate foundation for regular invocation practice without overload risk. Common obstacles appear predictably during invocation practice. The first obstacle is difficulty maintaining sternum awareness. Attention habitually jumps to head or disperses into thinking. Solution: use physical touch as anchor. Keep your hand on your sternum during practice. This provides continuous tactile reminder of the location. The second obstacle is inability to distinguish throat-generated versus chest-generated sound. Solution: experiment with extreme contrast. Speak a sentence in your highest, tightest voice. This is pure throat production. Then speak the same sentence in your deepest, fullest voice originating from your belly. This approach is chest production. Notice the difference in where you feel vibration. Then find the middle ground, where sound originates from sternum specifically. The third obstacle is doubt that you found the correct monad frequency. You discover a tone that feels right, then immediately question whether it's actually right or whether you're making it up. Solution: trust the recognition. If a tone creates distinctive resonance in your chest that other tones don't create, that's your signal. Self-doubt is personality consciousness questioning what awareness already knows. The monad frequency reveals itself through recognition, not through analysis. When you second-guess the recognition, you're shifting from awareness to thought, from direct knowing to conceptual uncertainty. Notice that shift and return to direct perception. Does this tone create distinctive chest resonance, yes or no? Trust the yes. The fourth obstacle is getting frustrated when manifestation doesn't appear immediately. You make the invocation with clear intention, proper technique, source alignment, but days pass and nothing visible changes. Solution: understand manifestation timing operates on principles personality consciousness doesn't fully perceive. Material reality is downstream from consciousness. Changes initiated at source level must propagate through multiple levels before becoming visible in matter. Sometimes propagation is instant because all levels are already aligned. Sometimes propagation requires weeks because certain conditions must shift before manifestation can stabilize in material form. The invocation works at the source level immediately. The manifestation timing depends on factors source consciousness understands better than you do. Make the declaration, trust it's working, take whatever practical actions feel aligned, and allow the manifestation to unfold in right timing. The fifth obstacle is feeling that making declarations about improved personal circumstances is selfish or spiritually illegitimate. This obstacle comes from misunderstanding the relationship between source consciousness and manifest form. Source consciousness expresses itself through manifest forms, including your life. When your manifest circumstances are constrained by lack, illness, or limitation, source expression through you is constrained. Declaring improved circumstances isn't ego indulgence. It's removing obstacles to clearer source expression. The test isn't whether you declare improved circumstances. The test is whether improved circumstances would increase your capacity to serve consciousness, expressing through all forms, or whether they would only serve separate self-interest. Declare what serves the whole. That includes you because you're part of the whole. The sixth obstacle is uncertainty about how specific to make declarations. Too vague and results are ambiguous. Too specific and you might be limiting source intelligence to your narrow imagination. The balance point. Be specific about what you're declaring but non-specific about how it manifests. Example: I am receiving $50,000 is specific about what. You don't need to specify that it comes from a particular job, client, investment, or lottery win. Source consciousness knows the optimal pathway. Your job is clear about what, surrendered about how. If you feel strong clarity about the how as well, include it. I am receiving $50,000 from my business this quarter. But if you're uncertain about the how, leave it open. Specify the what. Trust source intelligence for the how. The seventh obstacle is trying to force feeling or belief that the declaration is already true when your direct experience is otherwise. If you're declaring I am financially abundant while looking at an empty bank account and stack of bills, your sensory experience contradicts the declaration. Trying to force yourself to feel abundant despite contrary evidence creates internal conflict rather than alignment. Solution: understand what the declaration actually does. You're not declaring the current material state is abundant. You're declaring what is at the source level where your financial situation originates. At that level, the level where thought and matter are the same substance. The abundance you declared is already true because you spoke it with source authority. Material reality then reorganizes to match. You don't need to feel that material reality is different than it currently appears. You need to trust that you spoke truth at the level where material reality originates and manifestation follows. The eighth obstacle is experiencing unsettling synchronicities or reality glitches after invocation practice. You make an invocation, then throughout the day notice odd coincidences, unexpected opportunities, people mentioning exactly what you declared, or bizarre timing that seems too perfect to be random. This can feel disorienting because it challenges your understanding of how reality works. Solution: recognize these occurrences as evidence the invocation is working. You declared something at source level. Reality is reorganizing to match. That reorganization appears as synchronicities, circumstances aligning in ways that would seem impossibly coincidental if you didn't know you initiated the alignment through invocation. Don't be disturbed by this. Expect it. The Gospel describes it. Reality shifts immediately. Synchronicities are how you perceive reality shifting. The ninth obstacle is other people questioning or mocking your practice. You mention the invocation to friends or family. They react with skepticism, ridicule, or concern that you're getting into weird spiritual territory. Their reactions trigger doubt. Solution. Remember, the gospel teaching was hidden precisely because it threatened authority structures. Anything that gives individuals direct access to source power without institutional mediation will be resisted by people invested in hierarchy and control. More subtly, people operating from separation consciousness can't perceive source consciousness practices as anything except delusion or fantasy. They're not bad for their skepticism. They're working from a different level of awareness. Don't argue, don't defend. Simply continue your practice and observe the results in your actual life. Verification comes through direct experience, not through convincing others. The 10th obstacle is attachment to specific manifestation form. You declare, "I am in my perfect romantic relationship," while imagining a specific person. Then the invocation brings someone completely different who's actually better matched to you, but you're so attached to your imagined version that you don't recognize the manifestation. Solution. Declare the essence of what you want: loving partnership, deep connection, mutual growth, not the specific form you imagine it should take. Your imagination is limited by past experience and current conditioning. Source consciousness has access to the entire field of possibility. Trust it to deliver the optimal form, even if that differs from what you imagined. The 11th obstacle is practicing the invocation mechanically without presence. You repeat the words, make the sounds, but your awareness is scattered in thoughts about what you'll have for dinner or what someone said yesterday. Mechanical repetition doesn't access source consciousness. Solution. The invocation isn't a formula that works through correct verbal execution. It's a practice that works through consciousness shift. Before you speak, establish full presence. Rest in sternum awareness. Gather your attention completely into this moment. Then speak from that gathered presence. Quality of awareness matters more than perfection of technique. The 12th obstacle is comparison to other practitioners. You learn someone else discovered their monad frequency immediately while yours took weeks to emerge. You hear someone had dramatic immediate manifestations while yours unfold more gradually. Comparison triggers inadequacy or inflation, both of which are personality consciousness movements. Solution. Your monad frequency is unique to you. Your manifestation timing is unique to your circumstances. Your development pace is unique to your nervous system capacity and consciousness evolution. Comparison is irrelevant. What matters is whether you're deepening your practice and observing results in your own experience. Other practitioners' experiences can inform your understanding but shouldn't define your expectations. Real practitioner experiences provide valuable data points for understanding how the complete invocation works in actual lives, rather than theoretical frameworks. Maria, a 43-year-old single mother in California, began invocation practice after years of struggling with chronic pain from fibromyalgia. She completed the 30-day progressive schedule, then began daily invocation. "I am completely healed and pain-free," followed by her monad frequency. She reports that after 3 weeks of daily practice, she had one morning where she woke without pain for the first time in 8 years. The pain returned the next day, but that moment of complete pain-free experience showed her the invocation was working. Over the following 2 months, pain-free periods increased in frequency and duration. After 4 months of consistent practice, she was pain-free most days. Her doctors found this medically inexplicable. She found it perfectly explicable. She declared healing from source level, and her body reorganized to match. James, a 37-year-old entrepreneur in New York, used the invocation for business breakthrough. His company was struggling with cash flow and debt. He declared, "I am receiving $200,000 in new revenue this quarter from full source consciousness alignment." He reports that within 2 weeks a former colleague contacted him about a consulting project that brought exactly $200,000 in revenue over 3 months. The timing seemed impossible. The colleague had been out of contact for 5 years and happened to call 2 weeks after the invocation. James recognizes this as reality reorganizing to match his declaration. He continues invocation practice for business development and consistently reports results that appear as synchronistic, but that he understands as manifestation. Sarah, a 29-year-old teacher in London, struggled with the alignment requirement. She wanted to declare financial abundance, but recognized her motivation was primarily ego-based, wanting to impress others and prove her worth. She spent several weeks working with the question: what declaration would genuinely serve the whole rather than separate self? She eventually formulated, "I am receiving financial abundance that allows me to serve my students more fully and support my parents' aging care." This felt aligned. She made the invocation daily for 6 weeks. Then she received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative she barely knew. Exactly enough to clear her student loans and set up support systems for her parents. The inheritance freed her to focus completely on teaching without financial stress. She recognizes this as perfect manifestation of her aligned declaration. David, a 52-year-old engineer in Texas, approached the practice with extreme skepticism. He tried the invocation purely as experiment, declaring, "I am in my ideal living situation," while trapped in a lease in a city he hated. He reports that within 1 month, his company unexpectedly offered early retirement package. The timing aligned with his lease ending. He moved to a small mountain town he'd visited once on vacation years prior. He's been there 2 years now and describes it as more ideal than he could have imagined. Perfect manifestation of what he declared, even though he didn't believe in the process when he started. These cases share common patterns. First, practitioners who follow the progressive capacity building protocol report fewer obstacles than those who jump directly to full invocation without preparation. Second, manifestation timing varies widely, from days to months, with no correlation to practitioner skill level. This supports the gospel teaching that timing depends on factors source consciousness perceives better than personality. Third, manifestations frequently arrive through unexpected pathways that appear coincidental, but that practitioners recognize as direct result of their invocation. Fourth, the invocation works regardless of whether practitioners fully believe it will work. Belief isn't required. Correct technique and source alignment are required. Measuring progress in invocation practice differs from measuring progress in skill-based learning. You can't measure how well you're doing by comparing yourself to others or by counting manifestations. Progress shows in subtler markers. First marker, increased somatic awareness. You notice subtle body sensations you previously missed. Your interoception deepens. You can maintain sternum awareness for extended periods without effort. Second marker, easier access to source consciousness perspective, the witnessing awareness that recognizes itself as distinct from thoughts, becomes readily available rather than requiring intense concentration. You can shift from personality to source perspective quickly. Third marker, your monad frequency stabilizes. Initially, you might discover a tone that feels right one day but feels slightly off the next day. With practice, the frequency becomes consistent. You can reproduce it reliably and recognize immediately when you're on or off the right pitch. Fourth marker, synchronicities increase. As you practice regularly, you notice reality seeming to respond to your intentions more fluidly. Doors open unexpectedly. Resources appear precisely when needed. People show up with exactly what you require. These aren't coincidences. They're evidence that your invocations are affecting reality at source level. Fifth marker, reduced resistance to what is. Personality consciousness constantly resists current reality, wanting it to be different. Source consciousness accepts what is while declaring what's becoming. As you deepen invocation practice, you notice decreased struggle with current circumstances combined with increased clarity about what you're declaring. Acceptance and vision coexist without conflict. 6th marker. Other people notice changes in you before you do. They comment that you seem more grounded, more present, more certain. They're perceiving the energetic shifts that invocation practice creates. Integration with daily life transforms invocation from isolated practice session to continuous awareness. The formal practice, sitting for dedicated invocation, builds capacity and creates major manifestation initiations. But continuous informal practice, living from source consciousness, accelerates manifestation and deepens embodiment. Informal practice involves checking throughout the day. Am I speaking from personality or source? Am I operating from separation or unity? Am I declaring what is or requesting what might be? When you catch yourself in personality consciousness, worried, grasping, resisting, you can shift. Breathe into your sternum. Recall the feeling of your monad frequency even without sounding it aloud. Speak silently. I am whatever quality source consciousness embodies in this moment. This informal practice doesn't require special conditions. You're standing in line at the grocery store. Notice you're anxious about money. Shift attention to sternum. Breathe. Silently invoke. I am abundant. I am provided for. Feel the monad frequency resonating in your chest even though you're not making external sound. This takes 30 seconds but shifts your consciousness from personality separation to source connection. You're driving to work feeling stressed about a difficult meeting. Shift to sternum. Breathe. Silently invoke. I am clear. I am capable. I am aligned with highest outcome. The meeting unfolds differently than it would have from stress consciousness. Continuous informal practice builds what Tibetan Buddhism calls maintaining the view, holding source consciousness perspective regardless of external circumstances. You're not escaping into spiritual bypass, denying problems, or pretending suffering doesn't exist. You're recognizing that suffering happens at personality level while source consciousness remains untouched. And you're choosing to operate from source level even while dealing with personality level challenges. This doesn't make the challenges disappear instantly. It changes the consciousness from which you engage them, which changes what becomes possible. Advanced variations emerge naturally as capacity increases. The basic invocation sequence, I am, specific reality, monad frequency, establishes foundation. Advanced practice adds layers. First advanced variation, group invocation, when multiple practitioners who've developed individual practice invoke together, geometric rather than arithmetic amplification occurs. Two people invoking together don't create twice the power. They create exponential increase. The coherence fields interact, generating emergent properties. Group invocation requires all participants have adequate individual foundation. Attempting group work before individual capacity develops creates energetic chaos rather than amplification. Second advanced variation, extended invocation practice. Basic practice involves single invocation statement. Extended practice involves holding the invocation for longer duration. You make the complete statement once. I am healed, monad frequency. Then continue holding sternum awareness and monad frequency resonance for 15 to 20 minutes, allowing the invocation to saturate your entire field. This creates deeper penetration into consciousness layers. Third advanced variation, layered invocation. You make multiple related declarations in single session, building coherent field. Example, I am financially abundant, monad frequency. I am receiving opportunities that serve the whole, monad frequency. I am in perfect alignment with source will regarding money, monad frequency. Each declaration reinforces the others, creating comprehensive transformation rather than isolated change. Fourth advanced variation, invocation with visualization. Basic practice uses words and sound. Advanced practice adds visual component. As you speak the invocation, you hold clear visual sense of the declared reality already manifesting. Not imagination of how it might happen, direct perception of it already being true at source level. This engages different aspects of consciousness, verbal, auditory, visual, creating multi-dimensional invocation field. Fifth advanced variation, silent invocation. Once you're proficient with spoken invocation, you can invoke silently. The words remain internal. The monad frequency resonates in your chest without external sound. The consciousness shift happens without verbal expression. This allows invocation in any circumstance, meetings, conversations, public spaces, without drawing attention. Related practices that complement the complete invocation include cardiac coherence training, which uses specific breathing patterns to increase heart field coherence. Research from Heart Math Institute shows that breathing at 6 breaths per minute, 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, synchronizes heart rhythms with breath rhythms, creating coherent electromagnetic field. Practicing cardiac coherence for 10 to 15 minutes before invocation practice amplifies the heart field that carries your declaration into surrounding space. Second complementary practice, mantra meditation using I am as the mantra. Sit quietly. Silently repeat, I am, in rhythm with breath. Inhale, I am. Exhale, I am. This establishes the frequency of existence declaring itself, preparing consciousness for formal invocation. Third complementary practice, sternum-focused energy work. Sit comfortably. Place both palms on your sternum. Imagine golden light gathering behind your breastbone, growing brighter with each breath. This visualization practice activates the sternum location, increasing energetic sensitivity there. Fourth complementary practice, reality gratitude journaling. Before sleep each night, write 3 things that appeared in your life that feel like manifestation responses to invocations, synchronicities, opportunities, resources, encounters. This trains your perception to recognize manifestation patterns, which reinforces the feedback loop between invocation and observation. Fifth complementary practice, source consciousness inquiry. Throughout the day, ask yourself, what would source consciousness do here? Not what would personality want, not what would make ego comfortable, but what would consciousness itself choose if it was operating through your life? This question becomes ongoing invocation, continuous alignment check that keeps you operating from source level rather than separation level. These complementary practices don't replace the complete invocation. They create supporting structure that makes invocation practice more stable, effective, and sustainable. Long-term trajectory of committed invocation practice follows predictable developmental arc. First 6 months focus on capacity building, technique refinement, and initial manifestations. You're learning the practice, discovering what works in your system, beginning to observe results. Manifestations during this phase tend to be smaller scale, improved circumstances, synchronistic opportunities, health improvements, rather than massive life transformations. These smaller manifestations build confidence and demonstrate the practice works. Months 6 to 12 typically bring first major manifestation breakthrough. Something significant that you've been invoking materializes in form that clearly demonstrates source-level causation rather than ordinary circumstance. This might be dramatic financial manifestation, profound healing, ideal relationship, perfect living situation, or career breakthrough. The major manifestation serves as confirmation. The practice works not just for small adjustments, but for substantial reality reorganization. This confirmation typically triggers deeper commitment to practice. Years 1 to 2 involve integration of invocation practice into identity. You're no longer someone trying out an interesting technique. You're a practitioner who operates from source consciousness as primary orientation. The invocation becomes less about getting specific results and more about maintaining alignment with source flow. Manifestations continue but feel more natural, less surprising. You expect reality to respond to source declarations because you've experienced it hundreds of times. Years 2 to 5 often bring what practitioners describe as permanent consciousness shift. The witnessing awareness that recognizes itself as distinct from thoughts becomes continuously available rather than requiring deliberate practice to access. You live increasingly from source consciousness perspective while still functioning effectively in material reality. The boundary between formal invocation practice and ordinary life dissolves. Every word becomes potential invocation. Every action becomes source expressing. Beyond 5 years, practitioners report the complete invocation becomes inseparable from their being. They don't do the practice. They are the practice. Their presence itself invokes source consciousness in situations. Reality organizes around them without deliberate declaration because they've become transparent to source will. This isn't special spiritual status. It's natural result of consistent practice over years. The nervous system, energetic body and consciousness have been so thoroughly trained in source alignment that it becomes default state. Community resources for ongoing support include online forums where practitioners share experiences, troubleshoot obstacles, and encourage each other. The most active is the Valentinian Gnosis Forum, which includes dedicated section for Gospel of Truth study and invocation practice discussion. Second resource, Annual Gnostic Studies Conference, which includes workshops on practical applications of Nag Hammadi texts. Practitioners from various lineages gather to share techniques, compare notes, and practice together. Third resource, local meetup groups in major cities where practitioners gather weekly for group invocation sessions and study of source texts. Fourth resource, online courses that provide structured instruction in the complete invocation with detailed feedback from experienced practitioners. These courses typically run 8 to 12 weeks, guiding students through the progressive development sequence with weekly assignments and one-on-one coaching. Fifth resource, retreat centers offering immersion experiences. Extended silent retreat focused exclusively on invocation practice development. Immersion provides concentrated practice time away from daily obligations, allowing rapid capacity building. The complete invocation practice stands as one of the most significant suppressed teachings in Christian history. The institutional church preserved I am language in prayer and liturgy, but systematically eliminated the second component, the monad name, that makes the formula complete. This half-teaching persisted for 17 centuries, producing partial results that kept people hoping for divine intervention rather than recognizing their own source authority. The Gospel of Truth survived burial in Egyptian desert to re-emerge in 20th century precisely when collective consciousness was ready to receive it without institutional gatekeeping. What you've learned in the past 2 hours provides complete technical instruction for the practice that Valentinus taught to his students in 2nd century Rome and Alexandria. The practice that bishops feared because it gave ordinary believers direct access to source power. The practice that monks buried to preserve when episcopal authority ordered its destruction. The practice that challenges every hierarchical religious structure because it demonstrates that consciousness itself, not institutional priesthood, not sacred ritual, not theological orthodoxy, is the bridge between manifest reality and source. The complete invocation works because reality is consciousness manifesting itself. Material form is downstream from consciousness, not separate from it. When you speak from personality consciousness, you're speaking from inside the stream, hoping to redirect the flow. When you speak from source consciousness using the complete invocation, you're speaking from the spring that generates the stream. The stream must flow according to what the spring declares, because the stream is the spring expressing itself in motion. Your monad frequency is your unique signature within source consciousness. It's the sound you make just by being, the vibrational frequency of awareness recognizing itself through your particular form. Combined with I am, the declaration of existence, and a specific reality statement, what is from source perspective, you create the complete formula. Existence declaring what is through its own authority. This isn't magic. It's mechanics of consciousness operating at the level where thought and matter are the same substance. Begin tonight with the foundation practice. 20 minutes of body scanning, breath awareness, and energetic sensing. Build capacity before attempting full invocation. Follow the 30-day progressive schedule. Develop somatic awareness, energetic sensitivity, and source consciousness recognition. Discover your monad frequency through allowing rather than forcing. Learn to speak from your sternum with consistent awareness. Practice the complete sequence until it becomes unified gesture rather than separate components. Watch for the signs that invocation is working. Physical warmth in chest during practice. Increased synchronicities throughout your days. Reality seeming to respond to your intentions. Resources appearing precisely when needed. People showing up with exactly what you require. These aren't coincidences. They're manifestation. Reality reorganizing to match what you declared from source level. Expect obstacles. Work through them using the solutions provided. Don't abandon practice when results don't appear immediately. Trust the process. The invocation works at source level instantly. Manifestation into material reality follows according to timing that source consciousness understands better than personality. Make declarations that serve the whole, not just separate self-interest. Surrender timeline while taking aligned action. Verify through direct experience rather than belief. The gospel of truth ends with this teaching. This is the gospel of the one who is searched for, which was revealed to those who are perfect through the mercies of the Father, the hidden mystery, Jesus the Christ. Through him he enlightened those who are in darkness because of forgetfulness. He enlightened them and gave them a path, and that path is the truth which he taught them. For this reason error was angry with him, persecuted him, was distressed by him, and was brought to naught. The path is the complete invocation. The truth is that consciousness itself, not mediated through priests or institutions, is your direct access to source authority. Error, the archonic system of separation and control, was angry because this truth destroys its power. Persecution followed. The teaching was buried, but it survived. You're receiving it now, not because you're special, because you're ready, because you've searched, because you've sensed there's more than surface teaching provides. Reality bends when you say both names because you're not requesting from separation. You're declaring from source, and source declarations don't petition, they establish. Practice the complete invocation. Verify through your own experience, then teach others who are ready. The suppression is ending. The complete formula is emerging. Consciousness is remembering how to speak its own authority. Begin.